Hi, welcome everyone. I'm so excited today because I get to introduce you to this amazing woman that I got to meet through the Latinas 100 project. Her name is Adesa Munoz Rivera, and I am going to share a little bit about her and her story, and the rest I'll leave up to her to share the amazing projects that she has going on and what her writing journey has been. So, Hadassah Munoz Rivera her origins begin in the picturesque island of Puerto Rico, where she spent most of her childhood despite grappling with a dogmatic worldview that often left her feeling confused and unsettled. Her fondest memories are deeply rooted in the vibrant island life. The sweet sounds and vivid memories of her home have stayed with her throughout her journey, even during times when they seem to fade away. Through revisiting her past and acknowledging her inner strength and resilience, Hadassah has been able to transform her narrative. She now understands that healing is a viable and achievable goal, and that her story is still being written. I love that. I love that. Just before the call, for those of you who have never met her and who don't know much about her, she's going to share so many things. So take notes, because I believe that she's a woman of wisdom, and there's a lot to learn here based on a prior conversation that we were having before we got on this call live. So welcome, Hadassah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for inviting me and for allowing me to be part of this. So I would have to say that my project began back in 2015.
Mhm.
I started blogging. I just started writing, my life experiences, things that I was learning. And I had already embarked on this personal development, personal growth journey,
Mhm.
trying to understand better why I did the things that I did the way that I did them, and why was I getting the results. Sometimes results that I wanted, sometimes results, well, most of the time results that I never wanted. So I had to unpack all of that and started reading, researching, but also revisiting my past.
Mhm.
All the different environments, different circumstances, and it allowed me to just put it all in writing.
Mhm.
And it was almost like if I opened up a treasure box, a chest, and all of a sudden I just started pouring all these things. I just started writing and writing. And it
Mhm.
was mostly in English, but then all of a sudden something happened. I started to remember Spanish words.
Mm.
So I started writing in Spanish, and then that started to have a completely different vibe.
Oh.
And it was almost like if I revealed a part of me that was always there, but it had been left in those memories of the island life. When you live on an island, you're surrounded by water. Island life is more relaxed. There's always this beautiful flow. There's always music being played. The weather's always beautiful, except for when you get hit with hurricanes.
Right.
But I remember as a kid, the birds, the being outside in nature all the time. And then that kind of opened up the romantic side of me,
Mm.
which for a long time had been kind of closed up. And also that passion as a Latina woman just
Mhm.
started to just come right out. And the words started to come out. And there were times in which I said, oh, I never thought about describing this certain thing with these words, and how powerful it sounds with this Spanish word versus with that English word.
Mm.
So my love for writing and my love for words just started to grow more and more every day. And I've continued to grow. I have continued to learn from my experiences. And what I used to call mistakes, I just call lessons.
Mhm.
I call them lessons. And so the place where I am today is a place of acceptance and a place of hunger for learning more and growing
Mm,
more
I
and
love that.
sharing more of who I am.
I love that. That's amazing, and I love hearing how you've grown because of the writing, which is the whole point of the work that I do with Latinas 100 is to open up the possibility for those women who don't write and men too, because we have a lot of men in the group, as you know, that where writing allows for the person to open this door of growth. And so let me ask you, because the way that I came across your work was through the blog. So I want to know what triggered you to start blogging? Like, what was the trigger before you even had written any blogs? Like, what happened that you're like, I'm gonna start a blog?
So it's kind of funny because ever since I was young, I would love to journal. Like the
Mhm.
famous diary that you have as a as a
Yeah,
teenager.
I have many
Well,
of those,
yes,
and
I
they're
would
scary to
journal,
read.
and also I would, like prayers or ideas or just diary journaling. But also, it it was during a time that I went through a breakup, a
Mm,
relationship breakup, and though it ended, and I was sad, and I felt kind of sort of broken, I wasn't devastated,
mm,
and that took me by surprise. And I attribute my reaction at that time to the past learning
mhm,
journey that I had embarked on as far as reading personal development and things that have to do with neuroplasticity, your thoughts,
mhm.
um, oh, the law of attraction, all of that up
Yeah,
until that point. So,
you were feeding your spirit and your mind. So when something like that
yeah,
would happen, you were ready. Yeah,
yes, but up until then, it was just information. It was just
right.
information that I was holding up here. And then when that breakup happened, it allowed me to see that it had become part of me. And I
Mm,
wasn't devastated. And I realized, okay, so what's the meaning that I can give this heartbreak?
mhm.
So the meaning, immediately, I wrote a piece and it was called Broken in Order to Flow.
I love it.
So it was, and in my mind, I had a picture of a heart that was calloused and
Mm.
it was broken. And
Ooh,
when it was broken, it was cracked. And
wow.
you may think it hurts. And now all sorts of hurts are going to come. But at the same time, it's like you're opening up your heart to receive love and be able to continue to flow love
Mhm.
out.
Yeah. Wow.
That to me was okay, something's happening here.
Mhm.
And so a breakup is not a bad thing. Up until then, breaking up is bad. The song, breaking up is hard to do.
Right.
And we think, oh no, the
Yeah.
world has ended. I've been rejected.
Yeah.
Um,
When you're a
so the meaning,
teenager, right? You believe those
yeah.
things, and then you grow up and you're like, oh, yeah, this is
So
gonna happen a lot more.
the meaning that I gave it was, I'm still here. I'm still the same person that I was even before that individual came into my life.
Yeah.
But I was putting so much value into
Yeah.
that other person that I had lost myself. And
That's
at
powerful.
that moment, I realized I haven't been lost. I'm still here,
Mhm.
and I can help myself get through this. And I learned how to feel the sadness and the
Mhm.
sense of loss and being able to mourn that friendship, that relationship.
Mhm.
But at the same time, introducing me to the new me who happened to be the authentic me, who had always been there, sitting inside, just
Mhm.
waiting for me to at least finally pay attention.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Where yeah, that's the one thing that I love about professional and personal development is that when you do the books and you read and you watch the documentaries and you learn, when stuff happens in your life, it is almost like you're going to be okay because you've already fed your mind. It's like, when you're taking vitamins, even though you're not sick, and then you eventually get a cold or whatever, then you can lo puedes superar mejor porque you've been, te estás alimentando bien, So it's really an interesting, or it's like for most people, it's like an epiphany when it does happen, where you're like, oh, I did these things and I didn't fall apart, and now I'm gonna be fine, even though for most people, they would be devastated. Most people would be devastated, you know?
Well, and I was what? I was one of those most people for many, many, many years. I lived in devastated day in and I was always devastated and extremely depressed,
Mhm.
clinically depressed, you name it, having to seek medication or whatever.
How
For
did you know, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but how did you know
Mhm.
that writing would help you, or was just intuitive?
I didn't know it was gonna help me. I gravitated to what I did when I was little, when
Mm,
I was young, before I had a chance to be more programmed per
hmm
se. So I went back to the authentic Adasa
hmm
without even thinking. I just went back to something that I knew comforted me when I was young.
hmm
Little did I know that it was going to um, produce what it did.
hmm
And
hmm
there's so much we have up here that, for example, okay, every minute of the day we're thinking, everywhere we go, we're thinking. We look at someone, we look at the trees, the flowers, the cars. There's a story going on in our head all the time. Those are words.
hmm
Those are words. So, and when we're feeling feelings, the way that we describe those feelings is by using words.
hmm Yeah. And from that moment, when you started writing the blog, how big is your blog now? How many stories have you written?
I've lost count.
Yeah.
So
So
I
you
it's
became like an avid writer, and through it,
yeah,
to me, it would
it's
appear that it transformed you because you were just pouring out all these words.
poetry,
You were
a
just,
lot of poetry. It's
hmm
like I had an incident once in which I witnessed someone who called herself my friend. And in this particular moment, I wasn't expecting her to be there. And it was almost like she betrayed me.
mm,
She betrayed me. And it hurt me because I never expected her to be so. I had cried on her shoulder
mm,
after the heartbreak, right?
yeah.
But then the behavior that happened shortly after by her, it was almost like, wow, um, I wasn't expecting this. So that piece I wrote, it's called The Dark Mask.
Wow. Those are
The
the
Dark
most
Mask.
difficult. So when I think, I mean, this is just my own personal opinion, but like when you're
Yeah,
in a relationship with a man or woman or romantic, and
yeah,
and they betray you, it's kind of like, okay, it hurts, it stings or whatever. But then when a really close friend betrays you, it's
yeah.
like, it hurts so bad. Like yeah, I've been there, and you're kind of just left wondering, wow, who can you trust, But for me anyways, I've been able to kind of like regain, my trust in people again, but it's very
Mhm.
difficult. So I didn't know that had happened to you. That must have been
Yeah,
there.
so that was the second thing that happened. So the heartbreak, then the dark mask. And
Mm-hmm.
then the way that I wrote that was like, oh wow, even behind that smile, there was something else.
Mm,
And then that led to another piece of writing, which is something about empty graves. There's people walking around, they're smiling, but they're just empty graves. They're
mm-hmm.
just empty graves. They have nothing to give because they're just not good people.
Yeah, yeah. So you
So
have a very good intuitive perception where you're like,
yes,
yeah, you
yeah,
can
and
you can assess and hmm
and then after that, then I went into, okay, so what does love look like? What does a real romantic relation? What would I want it to look like?
hmm
So then I wrote this one about nuestro nido, which is
mm
our nest. A nest, like birds, they have a little nest, and so how do you protect that nest? all of that. And then I went into this El Jardín,
Mhm.
El Jardín, well, yo soy el jardín, in mi jardín. I'm not going to let anybody trample on my jardín. So it just kept evolving and evolving. And
Mhm.
I saw the transformation,
Mhm.
from years of living as a victim, living as woe is me. I just grabbed it all and I repackaged it and I just put it out there. And so there are times now that I don't even remember the bad things that have happened in my past
Mm.
until I actually sit down with somebody and I start talking about those things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that in like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
But I actually did go through that.
Mhm. And you survived it.
And I survived it.
Uh,
And I'm a fairly happy person.
yeah. Yeah. So when you actually wrote your story in the second volume of the Latinas 100, and I
Yes.
have here your story for
Oh
the
gosh.
viewers to see.
Mhm.
In this is a Spanish version, because we do all our bilingual books. Viaje en el tiempo. So can you tell us a little bit more about this, and then
Oh gosh.
also
Time travel.
share
Okay.
the new story that you're going to be writing in volume three and why you actually decided to do the volume three, because the volume three story is amazing too, and I want to get into that.
So volume two story was time travel,
Mhm.
right? And part of unpacking memories and kind of you
Mm,
have
I
to
love that.
be the observer of
Mhm,
your life.
mhm,
And how did you react in various times in your life? And
mhm,
so I did that. I went all the way back. I went all the back to when I was a little kid, 7, 13, um, stages in my life that were very impactful,
mhm,
traumatic. Let's just call them traumatic. And I went back as an adult woman
mm.
and I sat down with me as a 7-year-old little girl.
So you did the inner child work, which
I
is,
didn't even know I was doing that.
yeah.
Okay. It was almost like, and then and through the writing, I realized that all along, the person that I was calling out to meet me there, to help me, to give me the strength, was actually me as a grown woman.
Mhm.
So I went back as this motherly
Wow.
person, adult, mature, who had lived it.
Oh, that's so powerful.
And I said,
That's
I
so
said,
powerful.
mira niña, a los 7 años, at 7 years old, it's like, hey, I collected her tears.
Mm,
And those tears, I put them around her as a shawl, protection with diamonds. The tears were made out of diamonds. And then at 13, you're going through so many things when you're 13 years old. You're going through becoming a woman and you have so many questions and you may be growing up in an environment that your parents don't talk about what's going on, the changes
mhm.
that are happening. So I did that. So I had that conversation with me as a 13-year-old.
Wow, that's so
And
powerful.
then again as a 27-year-old when I became a mom for the first time. And there
Mhm.
were so many questions. And then basically I said, Mira, levántate, get up. You've
Mm.
made it. You've made it to a middle-aged woman.
Wow.
So inner child work, I had no idea that's what I did, but it was something that
Yes. Some people pay a lot of money for that kind of
no, no,
therapy.
no, no. So that was the piece that
So
I submitted
intuitively you knew.
intuitively,
Yeah. Yeah.
intuitively. And then so the piece that I wrote now, do you want me to go on to that
Yeah,
one?
can you read
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
want everybody, so you're watching this video, I want you to listen to these words. They're so powerful. And
So let's
they're
see.
going to be in our volume three. These are our first volume, second volume, and so she's going to be doing volume 3, and she'll have one of the chapters, and this is what she's gonna write about, but she's going to read us a section of it. So go for it.
So I'm going to read the first paragraph. It's called I Love to Write. The love of words has captured my attention, and writing has become my faithful friend. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that
Mhm.
beautiful? It is an art, a craft that brings me joy during those moments when I sit alone. I carve the time during the day to sit and just reflect on all the times that words hold down my head beneath the surface. As if beneath the waters, I found myself gasping for air. At other times, words lifted me so I could breathe again and filled my lungs with hope, determination, and the strength needed to carry on. This is what words have done for me. Oh, what delight it is to know that words have power either to snuff my life away or give me nourishment and build my strength again.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I'm going to move on to another paragraph here. Years have passed. Let's see. Okay. One of the things about words is that words are my thoughts, or my thoughts are made out of words, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's a paragraph that I wrote, and it goes by this: the words are thoughts that suddenly enter my room. This is my room, my mind. They gather in small clusters and fill the air with laughter, like ocean waves that crash against the rocks. Their chatter fills the air, full of excitement. Their voices are familiar and greet each other with delight. But long ago, they greeted one another with contempt.
Mm.
So those were the negative thoughts, the negative words. Um, Years have passed, and I have learned to watch and not succumb to moments full of darkness created by these words. I can remember when these words crowded my head and made me want to scream. I hid because they were like daggers that cut and left behind deep wounds that seemed impossible to heal. Their conversations were absurd. At times they were judgmental. They whimpered, whined, gossiped, and kept repeating the same stories. There was no room for growth.
Mm. Powerful.
One day I took full ownership of all these words. I knew I had to find a way to turn them into something good, and so I lovingly observed their actions. I questioned their intention. I questioned what was missing. And then I noticed that all along these words were there because they lacked attention and also lacked deep love. So I embarked and took a journey that not many will take because they do not have the courage to begin. I patiently began to cover them with kindness. I poured compassion over them. And as an alchemist who turns iron into gold, I also turned them into words that are no longer weak.
Wow. I love it.
Let me read one more.
Powerful. Powerful. So that was
Ye-
that one. Yeah, that was that one section that I love. Can you read the last sentence? Because I love that.
So the last paragraph is, my love of words continues, and so I write. I write because it brings me joy. I write because it is a way of leaving the evidence that I once lived.
Hmm. Hmm.
I write because it is a part of me. It is a song that's carried in the wind. And whether the words are etched on paper or spoken in the air, they will be read and will be heard. My life is just a compilation of many memories, only described by words. It all begins with words and ends with words, as it is written in a holy book. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Words are so powerful, they can even become flesh.
I love it. Wow, I love that. I absolutely love it. So when I read your stuff, it's more like poetry. It's like a like prose Because
And I don't embark to do that. It's like I start
yeah,
writing, and all of a sudden it
yeah.
like muscle memory.
I have a like the great pleasure of like reading so many stories and everything that, goes through my desk. I'm like, I read and I always everybody has a different style. So your style, as far as I can interpret, is like very poetic, very prose, very like deep stuff. Like you like weave the words together and it's like a song. Like your work is a song and I love it.
It
I just love it and I appreciate that. um,
it has a rhythm. It has a
oh
rhythm, and
yeah.
it takes me back to the island life.
Yeah.
Everything has a rhythm. Waves have everything. Like my heart, there's a rhythm. Dun, dun, dun.
Mhm.
Um,
Did you
and
develop that or do you think you just have that skill because you're really good at it?
I did not develop any. It's developed by itself, but I
Mhm.
just,
You were
it
born
just
with it.
happens. It just happens, and I think it's the part of me that's like an artist. I am an artist, I should say, and part of my culture is there's a tradition where I'm from. I think it's called trovadores, where people would get up and play music and just improvise a
Mm,
song
okay.
like out of thin air. You know, they would start words that would rhyme and it was like a story that was being weaved. Maybe as I was growing up, because that's part of my culture, it's still with me.
Mm,
So when I write, whether it's in Spanish or in English, it turns into this dance
yeah.
almost, like a choreographed dance with words.
Yeah, I love it. I'm so happy that you're writing in the book and that that I get to put a stage to your work and on the Latinas 100 platform. But even more so, I'm really looking forward to when you launch your own book, where you share all of these stories, right? And you put them all together, and there's so much of the richness that is your personality and the wisdom that you bring to the table that I really believe that there's more. Of course, I mean, you could put all the blogs together and there you have like this huge book, right? Because you've written so many blogs, but that's a gift. That's such a gift. For those of you who don't know, Hadessa actually was the formal editor for the last book that I published. So you can tell, and I know that this, we write completely different, right? Like there's a completely different style in the I think style does matter depending on what the subject is, but you have a very, very unique style in the sense that there's there's almost like this really deep understanding of how the world works. And so I just want you to know that I appreciate that about you.
Oh,
And I was
thank
really
you.
happy that when you helped me edit, the book and stuff, the feedback that you gave me and stuff was really helpful. So with that being said, and with finalizing our conversation today, I want to ask you, um, why do you think that it's important to, as a Latina, publish and to share who we are and to share our stories with the world? And this is more for the younger generation that's listening. Like, we're talking to 18, 20-year-olds, even 30-year-olds that are out there that have yet to share their story with the world. Why is it important?
I think that it's almost like guidance,
Mm,
almost like la luz de adelante es la que alumbra. You know, the light ahead is the one that um, lights the
lights
path,
the path. Hmm.
lights the path. And it's not just enough for us to be taking space and breathing and not, but sharing our life's experience, our wisdom. It's We would do a disservice to the younger generations not to impart that wisdom. You know, in various cultures, you know, there were three generations that lived under one roof, and there was always the matriarch of the family
Yeah.
who did the oral sharing of
Yeah.
stories
Oral
and
tradition.
the oral tradition. And I see that as us embracing that again, but with a lot more value, a lot more essence, a lot more wisdom. So there's a tradition of passing things down from generation to generation that actually doesn't help anybody at all.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then there's that wisdom that is shared throughout the planet
Hmm.
from various thoughts, various cultures, and
Hmm.
it's just common sense. Like,
Universal. Hmm.
yeah, they're universal, and it's about how to be a better human being.
Hmm. Hmm. And how to also, do it in an artful, as you do, you in a very artful and poetic way, which is beautiful. I love listening to you. I'm like, oh my God. Um, okay, so that's a wonderful, wonderful share for those who are listening. So my final question to you is, if today was your last day on the planet and you knew that, your message would be broadcasted all over the world, what would you want humanity to know about you and to know about what you've learned as a human being?
Adriana, I read that question 10 times as just a question. Like, but when you ask me that right now, I went into the actual, what if this was my last day?
Hmm.
So it's like I'm actually picturing that. And there's a wave of emotions, because we should live every day as if it's the last day.
Hmm.
So, I wrote something and I'm not even going to bother with that. But what I would say is start every day with a grateful heart. You wake up in the morning, it's like, oh, thank you that I'm still here. Thank you, heart, that you kept beating all night for me.
Yes.
You kept me alive so that I could open my eyes this morning.
Oh, it's
Thank you
powerful.
for this new day that's full of opportunities. Help me stay positive and make a difference in my own life and in the life of those that I come in contact with, and help me not fall into that negative space.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, do the same thing. Take stock of the day and think, okay, I think I could have done a little bit better. I could have spoken with that person with a little bit more kindness, or I could have set a boundary
Mm.
and not allow that negativity into my life every day, in the morning and at night, so that
Mm.
when you put your head on that pillow, um, you say, okay, I did the best I could today.
Yeah.
I did my best.
Yeah, then that's all we can do.
That's
That's all we
all.
can do our best. Just do your best. I
Yeah,
remember,
tomorrow's not promised.
yeah, for you just never know. So I love asking that question because you really get some deep answers. So I appreciate the fact that you shared that. And I mean, again, there's so much wisdom in everything that you say. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you are part of the Latinas 100 project and that you wrote in the book and you're
Gracias.
writing in the next one and that you edited my book and you did such
Oh,
an amazing job. So
yeah.
for those of you who are writing, who need an editor, she's your girl. And I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you for your friendship and for the fact that the way that you show up for the world is poetic and beautiful, and that's also a way to show up in the world. Like you have that gift, and it's beautiful, and I appreciate you for it. So thank you again, and thank you
Adriana, thank
for
you.
you guys who are watching in the 100 Authors 100 Days YouTube channel. I appreciate you. And any final words, Hadessa?
I just have to say that each one of us is unique. And I'm talking about gazillions of human beings on this planet, right? Unique. It's your life. Make the best of it. It's your individual. The fact that you are here, it's very special. And
Hmm.
every single human being is here for a purpose. Find that purpose, but be kind to yourself. When you're kind to yourself, you can't help but to be kind to others.
Hmm.
That's my last word.
I
It's
love it.
not going to be a perfect every day, but
Yeah.
strive towards that.
Yes. That's so wise, so wise. So listen up. Again, thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate you, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
I
Bye-bye.
appreciate you too. Take care.
Thanks.